NBA YoungBoy has once again pulled Baton Rouge back into a storm that never truly settled. With one song title, one name, and one decision, a long-buried situation has been reopened, and the tension between him and Boosie is now deeper, darker, and more serious than ever before. This is not about music anymore. This is about history, pain, respect, and lines that were never meant to be crossed. When YoungBoy released the song titled Nussie, it immediately sent shockwaves through Louisiana. People did not need explanations. They did not need breakdowns. They already knew exactly what that name meant and why it carried so much weight. In Baton Rouge, certain names are not just names. They are reminders of blood, courtrooms, whispers, and wounds that never fully healed. This situation goes far beyond personal issues between two rappers. It reaches into an old murder case, one of the most painful chapters in Boosie's life, and a moment that nearly took everything from him. For those who understand the city, the streets, and the history, this was not a coincidence. It felt intentional, and that is why emotions exploded so fast. NBA YoungBoy and Boosie come from the same city, but not the same path. Baton Rouge is not a large place where stars rise without crossing paths. It is tight, it is personal. Every move is watched, every word is remembered. When two major figures come from the same soil, history follows them whether they want it or not. Boosie had already built his name long before YoungBoy entered the scene. In the early 2000s, Boosie was the voice of Baton Rouge. His music reflected real street life, real struggles, and real survival. He carried the city on his back and opened doors for Louisiana artists when the industry did not care to look south. YoungBoy grew up watching that era. He absorbed it. He lived through the aftermath. By the time he started making noise, Boosie was already a legend, someone whose name carried weight in both music and the streets. At first, there was respect. There was no public beef, no direct issues, nothing that hinted at where things would eventually go. But Baton Rouge has sides, north and south, different areas, different loyalties. Those divisions matter more than outsiders realize. Boosie represents the south side. YoungBoy comes from the north. That divide is not just geography, it is identity. And when power shifts, tension follows. YoungBoy's rise was fast and heavy. His music took off online. His fan base grew fast. His image carried a raw edge that felt real to many people. Labels noticed. Money came in. Attention followed. With that rise, some people felt he stopped moving with the same respect expected in Louisiana culture. Boosie later spoke about clearing records, helping artists, and showing love behind the scenes. He felt confused when that same respect did not come back his way. He did not understand what went wrong. That silence created distance, and distance in street culture often turns into resentment. The situation did not explode overnight. It built slowly. Small comments, interviews, fans stirring things up, subliminal lines. Each moment added pressure. Baton Rouge began to split. People picked sides, not because they wanted to, but because the energy demanded it. Eventually, things reached a point where it could have gone very bad. Emotions were high. Messages were being sent. Moves were being discussed. The timing alone raised questions. This was not ancient history. Ma3 was a respected street figure whose death in 2009 shook the city deeply. His name is tied directly to the most serious legal battle of Boosie's life. Ma3 was once charged in a case connected to Boosie. Prosecutors tried to paint him as a mastermind. They pushed for the death penalty. The pressure was unreal. His life, career, and family were on the line. The case revolved around a man known as Myron, who originally accused Boosie of ordering violence. That testimony almost ended everything. But when Myron later admitted he lied, the case collapsed. Boosie walked free, legally cleared. But the streets never fully let it go. That cloud followed Boosie for years. Even after beating the case, whispers remained, pain remained, trauma remained. That chapter never truly closed for him. That is why YoungBoy using the name Ma3 hit so hard. It reopened wounds Boosie never asked to revisit. It dragged a painful chapter back into the spotlight, and it happened right after peace was made. Boosie's reaction was not loud rage. It was hurt. It was disappointment. He made it clear that bringing deceased people into conflicts is something he does not respect. To him, once someone is gone, they should be left alone. He refused to escalate. He did not drop a diss. He did not go all out. Instead, he pulled back. When asked if he would talk to YoungBoy again, he said he did not want to speak to him, but he still wished him well. That response said a lot. This was not about fear. This was about boundaries. From Boosie's perspective, this felt like betrayal. They had just made peace. They had just talked things out, and then this happened. It was not just a song. It was a reminder of the darkest moment of his life. YoungBoy, on the other hand, moves with a different energy.
He is younger, he is fearless. His music often reflects pain, loss, and violence because that is what he has lived. His fans connect to that rawness, but rawness does not erase responsibility. And this moment raised serious questions about intention. Was this careless or was it deliberate? Did YoungBoy fully understand the weight of that name, or did he know exactly what he was doing? In Baton Rouge, most believe it was not accidental. This situation highlights how street politics never truly disappear, even when fame enters the picture. Music can make people rich, but it does not erase history. It does not erase pain, and it does not erase consequences. Boosie is older now. He has children, businesses, a legacy. He has survived too much to throw it away over pride. That is why he chose restraint. That is why he stepped back. YoungBoy still moves with hunger. He still carries that fire. That combination makes this situation unstable. One is trying to protect what he built. The other is still building and refuses to be boxed in. Baton Rouge deserves unity. It deserves to see its stars win together instead of tearing each other apart. But pride, ego, and old wounds make that difficult. This story is not finished. The tension is still there. The silence speaks loudly, and every move from this point forward will be watched closely.
The question now is simple, but heavy. Did YoungBoy cross a line that cannot be uncrossed? Was Boosie right to pull back instead of responding with anger? And can there ever be real peace after a wound this deep is reopened? Only time will answer that. But one thing is clear. This was never just rap. This was history coming back to life. And in Baton Rouge, history never sleeps. The silence that followed only made everything heavier. No diss records flying back and forth, no public threats, no viral back and forth online, just quiet tension. And in street culture, silence is never empty. It is filled with thoughts, memories, and decisions being weighed carefully. In Baton Rouge, people began talking again. Not loudly, but enough. Barbershops, parking lots, studio rooms, everyone had an opinion. Some felt YoungBoy went too far, others believed Boosie should have expected it, and some felt both sides were victims of a city that never allows anyone to fully escape their past. Boosie's pain in this situation is not something new, it is layered. For years, he has said that beating that case did not give him peace. The court may have cleared his name, but the stress stayed with him. Nights wondering if he would see his kids again, days wondering if the system was about to erase him completely. That kind of trauma does not disappear just because time passes. So when that name resurfaced, it was like reopening a scar that never healed right. It brought back fear, it brought back anger, and most of all, it brought back a feeling of disrespect. Not just to Boosie, but to a family that lost someone and never asked to be part of rap drama. People close to Boosie say he felt blindsided. He truly believed the peace call meant something. He believed there was an understanding. He believed certain lines would never be crossed. That belief breaking hurt more than any diss ever could. YoungBoy, meanwhile, stayed quiet publicly. No explanation, no apology, no clarification. That silence created its own message. To many, it felt like he stood by his decision. To others, it felt like he simply did not care how it landed. This is where the generational gap shows itself clearly. Boosie comes from a time when certain rules were unspoken but respected. Dead people were off limits. Court cases were off limits. Family pain was off limits. Once those lines were crossed, there was no going back. YoungBoy comes from a different era, an era where pain is content, where trauma is turned into music, where lines blur between art and real life. His fans reward that honesty, even when it makes others uncomfortable. But Baton Rouge is not the internet. It is real streets with real consequences. Names carry weight. History carries weight, and disrespect does not disappear just because a song charts. Some fans tried to defend YoungBoy by saying the song was art, not a message. But in cities like Baton Rouge, art and message are the same thing. People do not separate the two. They listen closely. They remember everything. Others questioned why YoungBoy would reopen a chapter that could only end badly. There was no gain.
In a culture where responding is expected, silence becomes louder. It showed growth. It showed restraint. It showed that he values peace more than ego now. But restraint does not mean forgetting. It does not mean forgiving. It simply means choosing not to burn everything down. Behind the scenes, people tried to calm things again. Mutual friends, industry figures, street connections, everyone understood how fragile the situation was. One wrong word could turn this into something far worse than music. The city itself felt the tension. Baton Rouge has lost too many young lives already, too many artists, too many futures. People did not want to see another situation spiral out of control because of pride. This moment also forced fans to look at the bigger picture. Both Boosie and YoungBoy are products of Baton Rouge. Both represent pain, survival, and struggle. Watching them clash feels like watching the city fight itself. There is also a deeper issue here: trauma passed down through generations. YoungBoy grew up watching violence normalized. Boosie lived through it when there was no spotlight or protection. They are connected by pain, even if they express it differently. Some believe YoungBoy's music choices reflect unresolved anger toward older figures in the city, a desire to separate himself, to break away, to prove he owes nothing to anyone. That mindset may fuel his creativity, but it also creates conflict. Boosie, on the other hand, sees legacy differently. He believes in giving back, in protecting the next generation, in keeping certain traditions alive, even in a changing industry. That clash of mindset is at the heart of this situation. It is not just personal, it is philosophical. As time passed, the story did not fade. It stayed alive because it touched something deeper than gossip. It touched real loss, real fear, real history. People began asking whether reconciliation is even possible now. Can you come back from reopening a wound like that? Can trust be rebuilt after a moment that feels so intentional? So far, there has been no movement toward peace, no new calls, no statements, just distance. And sometimes, distance is permanent. What makes this situation even heavier is that both men are fathers. Both have children who will grow up hearing these stories, seeing these headlines, feeling the ripple effects of choices made today. That reality changes how this should be viewed. This is no longer about winning an argument. It is about what example is being set. Baton Rouge does not need another chapter of loss. It does not need more division. It needs healing. But healing requires accountability, understanding, and respect. Right now, all of that feels far away. The song still exists. The name has already been spoken. The damage has already been done. And until someone decides to truly address it, the tension will remain, quiet but heavy, sitting right under the surface. Because in Baton Rouge, unresolved issues do not disappear. They wait.